Now, before actually getting into any delegation tactics, it's important to take a step back and think about what your role as a leader truly is. At its core, your job as a leader is to keep your team progressing and remove any obstructions while never becoming an obstruction on your own. In order to do this, sometimes you'll be contributing as an individual contributor, and sometimes you'll be passing along the work to a team member through delegation. Remember that regardless of the choice, it's your job to facilitate and maximize your team's impact. For that very reason, delegation is sometimes essential. Without it, you'd have a massive list of action items on your back, and you would be both inefficient and consuming time that you should be dedicating to becoming a better manager. One of the big things that comes from a remote workplace is that team members are often working in different parts of the world, and this can lead to communication issues. There's typically two types of communication, asynchronous and synchronous. Asynchronous, as you might expect, is when something is requested and the response is later done. So for example, you send your teammate a message and they respond 8 hours later because they're in a different time zone. Synchronous communication is instantaneous. So perhaps you get on a call with a teammate and you exchange material immediately. Remote work often requires more asynchronous communication, especially as compared to a non-remote environment. This is okay, but as a result, the team needs to be able to operate with a degree of autonomy that doesn't exist when you're not available. Here's a good analogy of a commonly cited online problem called the monkey problem. So essentially, as a leader, someone on your team comes to you with a problem. This problem comes as a monkey on their back. You basically respond by taking this monkey off their back and dealing with that problem on your own. This is fine as a one-time thing, but then another teammate comes to you with another problem as a monkey on their back. Once again, you decide to take this monkey off their back and put it onto your own. As you can imagine, this will compound over time, and eventually you'll be left with a bunch of monkeys on your own back and a bunch of teammates who are left unaware of how to actually solve their own problems. You're not empowering your team in this scenario, and you're not entrusting them to be able to take the initiative to solve their own problems. So instead of taking problems off the hands of your teammates, enable them to actually proactively resolve problems that they encounter. This would be true if you were working in a physical office, but it's even more important when you're working remotely. You have fewer check-ins, and you can imagine how this compounds over time as you work asynchronously. Perhaps you're sleeping and 3 of your teammates come to you with monkeys on their back. You cannot actually be around to solve these problems. But instead, if you've empowered your team to actually solve these problems on their own, you can imagine how much more gets done in this asynchronous environment. You should really view delegation as an opportunity to help build your team and help them build their own confidence to solve their own problems. Next, we'll actually dive into a framework for delegation.